here, Dale.
Hello, beautiful. Thank you. I'll give you that pen.
Long time no see, girl.
Yes, my friend.
You've
Now,
been...
hang on. We need to sort something.
What's that?
My name's Dee. Her name's Dipner.
So you're the real D.
Yeah. Okay, good.
But I'm just a D, not a D-E-E.
Keep going.
Yeah, okay. You know, I guess as we get older, we kind of aspire to calling our own shots. Doing what we want to do, going where we want to go, travel, all of that kind of stuff. Well, this lady's made it a reality. But it wasn't so long ago, I remember sitting down with her, where it wasn't a reality.
It was so far from a reality, Dipner. It was a nightmare. It was a full-on nightmare. Yep. So, like many, I'd been through a divorce. I came out of the divorce with a nice debt. I was 90 grand. I was earning $23,000 a year. I had 2 young sons, and I was a workaholic. And I thought that's what life was about. You know, you just worked, and the more you worked, the more you got somewhere. I had no time for anything, but I'm hoping the next half an hour of my life tells you this is about the journey. This is not about just property.
That's right. That's exactly right. So when I met you, this was a little way down the track, you'd worked hard and you'd bought a bunch of properties because you could. You thought, property's the way I've got to go, I just got to buy whatever I can afford.
Yep. Basically, if I just worked hard, that I'd eventually get a solution and be debt-free.
And something would work out.
Something would work out, and like many, negative gearing was absolutely the way to go. Oh dear, yeah. So that's...
And cross-securitisation, from what I remember.
Yep. So as you can see, there was a portfolio. It was quite a healthy portfolio. 1.6 million, of debt, 2.4 million goal. But that minus sign, that minus nearly $40,000. So I just kept working. That was the solution. I was working at one stage, after 2 years, I worked 5 jobs. I was working in the mining industry, I was teaching at TAFE, I was writing syllabus for TAFE, I worked in a plant nursery, and I was growing 30,000 plants for Tomago Aluminium. And I still had 2 sons living with me, and they didn't see much of their mum.
No. Are they here?
No, they're not, but you're going to meet my eldest tonight.
Okay, very good. So, when your original position in joining I Love Real Estate, you'd made a few mistakes. We talked about negative gearing, all in your own name, of course.
Of course. What else is there to do?
And I must say, when I first met Dee, she, with all of those properties, she had never heard of a line of credit. And for those of you that have played in the banking prior to its current tightening up, we all lived off line of credit. That's how you got into property. And my love here had never heard of a line of credit. So I said, oh, guess what? I've just seen some education. So Dee and I actually go back a long way, and we actually did platinum together. So yes, but she, with all of those properties, had never actually leveraged. And so yes, that was the beginning.
There's a thing about your husbands too, isn't there? Like, your partners.
Her husband's named Gorgeous.
John.
And my partner's named Toots, John. And we'd known each other for quite a while, and I only never knew Gorgeous as Gorgeous, and Tam only ever knew Toots as Toots. And that's what we called him. And it wasn't till ages. I said, what is his name?
But what's more interesting is when we first met, which was outside of real estate, as environmental consultants, and I was opening up a environmental consultancy or an arm of in Brisbane. Dee did the same in Newcastle. I had the science background, Dee had the practical. So when I joined, I said, okay, I need to sort of find the practical bit, which was her. So I said to the consultants, okay, I need to fly to Newcastle to meet this woman. Seriously, and she said, oh, just come and stay at my place, which I thought was, oh, that's a bit weird, but okay, I'll come and stay at your place for a few days.
I'm a friendly sort of a person.
Seriously, I was there for half an hour, and next thing I've got a paintbrush in my head. I was renovating her house, and This is before we knew I was already into property. So next thing I find this woman who not only do we do the same profession, she's into property, I'm renovating her house, we're supposed to be going to work, and on the way to work, we're inspecting properties, and yeah. So we were a bit of a...
My mother always told me idle hands were the devil's work.
So you got on that list there that accountants are a waste of money, huh?
Well, of course they were a waste of money. You know, you've got to do it all yourself. If you work hard and you just listen to yourself and you do all the homework, eventually it'll pay off.
Right.
That was the philosophy. So, you know, you don't talk to banks. Accountants are a waste of money. Line of credit, never heard of that because, you know, you just keep away from your banks. So that's where I was
That's
at.
what it is.
Yep.
So you had a few fears coming in to I Love Real Estate.
I had a massive amount of fear. I'd already felt I'd failed at a marriage. I felt that I was failing my boys because I wasn't there for them. And if I did all this work, it was all going to go down the gurgler. And everything that I'd worked for was going to be for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, rewind, I'm a bit of a crier. And more latterly, I have 2 grandchildren, 7 and 8. They were coming along and I had no time for them in it. And my mum and dad were very healthy till the very last, few days of their life. There was no time for them. So everything was about work, pay down the debt and get on with life. Yeah.
So you were still very much in that post-divorce survival mode?
I was in having to survive. There was no maybe about it. I had to pay down that debt or I was going to lose everything.
So your starting position pre-platinum, or pre-I Love Real Estate, but I think you came straight into platinum, was you had a bunch of properties, but look at all those minus signs, minus. They're all negative.
Red's a great colour on a fire truck.
You look at some of the properties. I remember these properties. I remember a number of those going through them at the time. Yep. Negative cash flow, $34,000. And when you're on your own, that's a significant amount of money to come up with. And obviously, Dee's solution was work. So what then happened?
Well, there was someone that came into my life that said, what else could you do with them? And the one thing that I really cherished about platinum, and it's not a cookie cutter, guys, it's not one size fits all, it's about what works for you. And Dipna said, well, what else can you do with them? You've got all this property, what are you going to do with it? Yes, we need to get rid of some because they're dead wood, but what else? So, I put my peg in the sand, I did every bit of reading, I did every video, I attended as much as I could. Yes, it was extra work, but it was definitely worth it. My vision board was really clear. I knew exactly what I wanted to do on it. I knew I wanted to be debt-free. I wanted to volunteer overseas. I wanted to see a cheetah, and I wanted to have time. That was it. Clear cut, no problem. Clear mantra, healthy, wealthy, loving and wise, and I laugh every day. Absolutely, they were the biggest take-home messages that I got out of platinum. And I really started then to say, I've got to get smarter at this, and working harder is not it. It's about working smarter.
And you engaged a good accountant this time.
Oh, my Lord. If you haven't gone to talk to Wisdom Accounting, you are a doofus. Get out there and talk to them. They are awesome. They are seriously good team. And I've just started working with Pacific Law. Why didn't I do that a long time ago?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very, very good. So I vouch for them unsolicited.
So you got your structures together, you got yourself organised, and you started to really take control of that destiny. So what did that mean for your properties? How can we turn them into positive?
Okay. I live in the Upper Hunter Valley. I live in the mining industry. I've worked in the mining industry. I was almost tempted to come and do this presentation in high visibility clothing, but I haven't worn that for the last 2 years. So I knew what the Hunter was about. I knew what contractors needed, and I needed to get smart. So I started basically looking at council websites. who was doing development applications. I went onto New South Wales planning websites, what mines are being approved, who's the mining company that is doing it, who are the contractors behind it. I drove around building, subdivisions and looked for signs of builders. I was looking for tenants for my properties because the properties that I had were basically just rented out, people bought their furniture in and rented the house.
They were nothing properties.
They were nothing properties. And one day, and I remember talking to Dipner about it, I sat on the gutter looking at one of them and I thought, what are you going to do for me? And the house, as bright as those two lights in my face right now, said, well, why don't you furnish me and put contractors into me? Okay, I'm listening.
Ta-da!
Woohoo, light blower. So that's what I did. And I just turned the properties around from what was $150 or $120 or $200 a week to $300, $400, $500 a week rental properties. I worked with my managing agents. I got them to love me as much as I love them, and things turned around. It was a massive amount of work. My boys were now grown up a bit more, and it was massive work. I was still working, not as much as I had been by any means. I was back down to, at this stage, probably, 2012, I was only working part-time in one job because the maths was there. The maths was...
63 up this time, not 34 down.
Yep.
Now, that's a pretty significant turnaround, and we've still got 2 properties there that are negative as part of that as well.
Well, Corlett, beautiful Port Stephens in New South Wales. It was going to be my lovely little retirement unit. But it was costing me $13,000 a year. I don't love retirement that much. St James was the one that I did turn around, and then I sold that. But the ones that I'm just sort of looking down here, please excuse me, but yep, those properties were ticking away. So 102 is a block of 3 2-bedroom units, and 16 is a block of 4 2-bedroom units. 102 was on the market, had been sitting on the market for about a year. No one was interested in it because it was a bit scruffy, and there was a building report had been done that said it had termites in it. When we did a bit of homework, the termites were in one wall of the garage. We can fix that. 16 never was on the market. I went to look at the block of units next door to it. My partner Toots said to me, that went to a horse stud, and he said, well, why don't you go this one? This is just flat and it's 4 units and there's some land out the back. You're always telling me that that's the stuff you should look for. I said, but it's not even on the market. And he said, well, that's never stopped you before. So I bided my time and it came on the market. No, it never went on the market. I bought it straight from the guy.
So here's some of the furnishings that you put in, and they're basic. It's not over the top rocket science. I mean, it's not Mel styling, but it's all right,
This is not a fashion queen or anything yet. But what I knew is I knew the guys, and they are guys that I was looking at tenants. They wanted queenside bed. They wanted large TVs, they wanted a microwave, and they want a pizza tray. Anything else is a bonus. So, if you're furnishing a property, yes, you can go and buy it for this style. You can go and buy it all at Domain or Harvey Norman, but I used to go in, I had fantastic furniture, the 2 stores in the Hunter Valley on speed dial. And the guys knew me. They'd say, Dee, we've got a dining room table that the chairs have busted on. Do you want the table? We could put 2 chairs with it. Yep, thanks very much indeed. I've got another property coming up.
So you got all the scratch and dent, basically, stuff.
Scratch and dent was fine. Seconds of white goods, absolutely fine. I've got a lounge still in one of the properties that I still own that's got a big slash right through the back of it where they cut the plastic off. That's been up against a wall for heaven only knows how long. The ingoing property report, it cost me $50.
Hey!
I'll take that every day of the week.
You. And they're not Taj Mahal properties, so you've got to remember, they're lower end properties.
No, these are lower end properties. So this is the one that's still left. This is in Scone. It's fully renovated, furnished. They're the rents down the bottom. They're long-term tenants, engineering companies, horse stud, and a couple who work at the local meatworks.
Very good.
So
you did a few other deals, though.
Yep, I've done a few deals. Since 1992, 26 property deals. I've done probably everyone thought, I sort of got swept up a bit. And I thought, well, I could do a DA and do this and do that. But I realised that one of the deals that I was going down that pathway was a disaster, and I jumped ship and lost money on it. Whereas the other one, the block of units that we've just seen, at the back was a vacant block of land that was valued at about $30,000. So I subdivided that off and thought, $30,000, that's nothing. You can't buy a car for $30,000. So I basically jumped through all the process of a duplex on the back of it, just talked to council. Yes, they were happy. They thought it would go through without any problems. I didn't actually take it through the DA process and pay the council, but sold it for $90,000.
With the potential.
So there was the potential. The best deal, straight from the buyer. So managing agents, if you've got a managing agent with a rental property and you don't like them, change them. That's just my gut feel. And if you're not sure how to change them, go to an open house when they've got a rental property up. See how they treat their tenants. Go in and talk to them, work with them. That's the sort of stuff that I learned.
So, more important things than property, obviously, is your family.
Very much so.
And time now.
Yeah, and time. So this is a photo of my mum and dad when they were alive, and my sister standing next to me at the back. It was at my son's engagement. I was very, very fortunate to spend the last week of both mum and dad's lives in hospital with them. I was with them right till the very end. I could never have done that if I was working full-time.
Yeah.
Never. I basically looked after my grandkids, took them to school, still do. Picked them up, not all the time, of course, because I don't live with them all the time. So, had time for my eldest son and had time for toots.
Yeah.
We live on a property in the Hunter Valley. We've been in drought for 3 years. If anyone here tells me that it's smoky in Sydney, I'm just not going to listen to you. I've got no empathy for you at all. Go where it's burning. Go it's a place that's been in drought for 3 years. That is hardship.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So there's toots.
But look at you now. I mean, you live the life that most people dream of living in retirement. You trip around the world, you volunteer all around the world, you play with your grandkids, and you got the money to be able to do what you want.
And?
Well done.
Well, it's just, that's because the hard work was worth it. The lessons, the education, the mindset, and remembering it was about the journey. I was not... life is not a race to the finish line. Life is about living it while you're there and enjoying it while you can. And this lady taught me that. Very much taught me that. So, what's more important to me than property? Well, nowadays, I'm fully funded, self-retiree, haven't worked full-time for 10 years, stopped full-time work part-time work a couple of years ago. I volunteered with Aurora Impact in 2013. I know those guys. And it wasn't until it all came together with a bit of a whirlwind that we realised the connections. So after doing that, I volunteered with the Red Cross in Kenya in 2014 for 13 months, working in prisons and schools, sharing the knowledge I had with girls, particularly in high schools, and women and men in prisons across Kenya. So we've got some photos, we'll look at that in a minute. More recently, just helping our local community in drought. I'll be back in the Hunter next Saturday, and we've got a traditional Christmas event happening, basically so the farmers can get together. I've got money I've raised from them from different grants and things, so we'll be about 100 people there with the man in the big red suit. That one, money raised for our local community to upgrade the hall and the recreation ground, because that's the focus of our community. It's where we get together. It's where, from a mental health thing, to go and watch a game of cricket where the toilet actually flushes can mean something to someone in a drought. And then sort of on a more professional basis, while I was employed, I really cherished the opportunity to mentor staff, and that was been recognised through awards through the mining industry and my employer. So, yeah.
Here's a few of your pictures.
Yeah, they're my girls in the stripy outfits. Most of the women in Kenya in jails are there for prostitution. They're basically worked as prostitutes simply to support their family. They have no money, they have very little skills. So my job with a land management background was to go into the prisons and schools and to teach them how to grow stuff. Really simple, and to try and find crops that they could sell to the local community. In most cases it was coriander and basil and rocket, 3 really fast growing crops. I was on the coast at Malindi, there was a large Italian population and restaurant trade, and they couldn't get those 3 crops. With the men, they were looking more at things like kale and spinach because they had more area. And I remember talking to the guard, and I said to him, "So what are the guys here in prison for? You know, Gundra, can you explain?" And he said, "Oh, most are just speeding things."
Speeding?
They speed, speed a car, well, they might not have a safety belt on, and so they get pulled up, and the cop says, "I'm going to give you a fine, I'm going to give you a ticket, pay me." And so they can't pay them, so they go to the police station, and they go into the police station, and the front copper says, "You'll go into that jail if you can't pay me." Well, they can't pay, so they go into jail. So they go into jail, and then they pay to get the lock undone at night to go home. No, they can't, so they then go to in front of the man with the curly wig, and the man in the front of the curly wig says, "I'm going to prosecute you unless you can pay me." So where do they end up? In jail. But there were also rapists and murderers, he told me. So the schools with the children was just informing them about simple things, collecting manure and putting that back into the soil, you know, but not using saline water to grow things. Such simple stuff means such an amount. I should add that the trip to Kenya was with Red Cross, Australia Red Cross. I was hosted with Kenya Red Cross, and there was some scares for my security on the coast, so they moved me inland, and I was south of Nairobi, and I had to find accommodation at short notice. I have been a mother superior. It's the truth of it, because I live with a closed order of nuns. And the closed order of nuns were having a lot of problem growing crops, and the people that were giving them advice, it was all based on importing fertilisers and pesticides. And I said, "Look, let's just do this organically." Mother Superior had to go away for a couple of weeks, and she said, "Here are the keys of my office. You are in charge for the next 2 weeks." So... And I should add, I'm in no way a religious person. I'm not a practising Catholic, nothing like that. So she obviously saw something in me that worked.
It's not about that, it's about heart.
It was about heart.
Now, you said before that you wanted to see a cheetah. Did we do that?
Yeah, I did. As a child, my sister I have a sister 8 years older than I, and apparently when people came to our house, I have a book, they still have, Child's Encyclopedia of Animals, or World Encyclopedia of Animals, a green book about this thick. And I used to open it and say, "Read it to me, and can you read this bit, because this is about my cheetah. And when I get bigger, I'm going to go to Africa and see my cheetah." Well, I had on my vision board a cheetah, and I had about volunteering overseas, and I never thought the two would come together. And I got the opportunity to go to Kenya and volunteer for 12 months, and that cheetah is as close as you are to me right now. There was 2 of them looking through the window, and I've gone all through bumpy just thinking about this. They were purring. So I've seen my cheetah.
There.
Earlier this year, I had 3 months in that beautiful blue truck travelling through West Africa. Travel for me is massive. I've done the Trans-Siberian Railway all the ways you can, from Beijing to Moscow, Vladivostok. I've walked on Lake Baikal, which is 20% of the world's fresh water. I've had river cruises. And I've got more to go. I've got a lot more to go. I've recently booked 2 weeks, sailing off the coast of Norway. And all being well, I'll do a trip into northeast Siberia next June. hopefully before I come to Cambodia.
Cambodia.
And
So-
Cambodia. Woohoo.
And the power of vision board, because Dee would do her vision board and then she would email it to me and I would print it out and I had her vision board and my vision board on my wall. So she would then ring me up and say, oh, see the white car? Yeah, I just bought that. So I'm just ticking off her vision board. Everything she has on her vision board, it's just got ticks all across it. It's just amazing to watch.
And probably before I travel, I'll also, I hope to volunteer with Blaze Aid, which is an organisation based on helping rural communities after fire, flood, drought or cyclone. I've worked with them, or volunteered with them before, and if all goes well, I'll do a couple of weeks with them before Christmas and hopefully about 6 weeks in the new year running a kitchen for them up around Nabiac or Wingham. So,
Very good.
Yep.
So your final position is those two added together, so 60-odd
Yep.
grand.
Yep.
You've scaled down, got rid of some of the
Yep.
others.
Don't need all that stuff.
You don't need a lot of mucking around and maintenance and whatever else.
No.
You got 60-odd grand, and that enables you to be a self-fund retiree and do what you want to do.
Yep. And there's a self-managed super fund that I just don't need to touch at the moment, so I draw the money out of that and just put it straight back into it again.
It's pretty good. You're going to buy a commercial property in there?
I've got other things I need to do first.
Oh, okay.
I might help my youngest, probably will help my youngest son. He's just ready now to start stepping into a few
All right.
other things.
Final results, no regrets?
None. Not one neurone in this body has regretted platinum. Not one. Not for a second. Not for a second. And I should add that, 2009, you might think, oh, that's a long time ago. And it was. And a lot's changed. A huge amount's changed. Why am I standing here in front of you? My eldest son, who's pretty prolific on Facebook, said to me, Mum, he said, Mum, there's something about I Love Real Estate. Isn't that what you did? And I said, oh, yeah, yeah. And he said, they've got a competition about success stories. Why haven't you entered it? And I said, well, I don't know. Is my story worth telling? And he said, Mum, you've impacted so many people. You definitely need to tell your story.
You do.
So-
And isn't she inspirational? Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Dee, for sharing. I'm glad your son gave you the push. Yes. We're very glad to have you here.
Thank you very much, and thank you. Just before we close, and I give this lady a hug and this one here, I'd just like you all to pick up your telephones. You've all got one. Quickly, hurry up. We're time poor. I'd like you to go to your camera, flick it so it's round, like it's looking at you. Right? You all got that? Now take that photo. Take the photo of you. And if you're going to do, apart from donating prolifically to Raw Impact and the things this lovely lady said, I want you to set that as a wallpaper on your telephone. So every time you pick up your telephone, you will see you. Because most of it has other things on our phones. We have our family, we have holidays, we have all that stuff. If you're even vaguely interested in doing platinum or quantum or ultimate, you need to get your head around you first. This is about you. It's not about property. That's all part of it. That's part of the journey. This is about you, getting you right, getting in a family that's going to support you with these amazing coaches, and this absolutely phenomenal woman.
Thank you, Dal.
Thank you.
You're an inspiration. Here's your pen.
Oh, thanks for the pen. I get a lucky pen.
No, Tamara wants a cuddle.
Of course you're going to get a cuddle.
She wants a cuddle.
I love this lady.
Thank you, Dal.